everyone, welcome to the start of the September buzzwordathon reading vlog. I am starting this the latest I've ever started a buzzwordathon vlog this year, which is nuts. And it's just because I haven't really felt like starting the books that I have on my list for this reading challenge this month. Anyway, we're starting it today. It is the first Monday of the first week of the school holidays. This is my chill day. On Saturday I had my birthday lunch with family, so I was out for most of the day. And then yesterday it was a massive cleaning day for me on the Sunday, so I was just literally trying to clean as much of the apartment as I could. It still looks like a bomb site because I am not a minimalist by any stretch. So it's as good as I'm gonna get in, you know, 6 hours of non-stop cleaning. And then this morning I had Erin's like going to get my nails done because I haven't had them done in 4 weeks and they were just too long and driving me absolutely bananas. And just chilling, like I haven't sat down and filmed a video in well over a week and a half at this point in time, and I desperately need to film some content. So that's what we're doing. It is just after 2 p.m. I'm going to sit on the couch and read this afternoon. My lovely new crocheted blanket from Mum, she's crocheted this for me. It is Mustang's colours, but it's also very appropriate for Halloween season, so I will be all blacks and oranges and bright pinks essentially for Halloween. But for now it's just here and cozy so that when I need a blanket, because today's freezing. We've got the southerly winds coming off Antarctica, which is not what we want at this point of the year. We've just got some nice weather. But buzzwordathon vlog, we have a cover prompt and also a word prompt. I am not starting with the word prompt this time because I am still debating whether or not I'm just going to permanently DNF one of the books that I have listed, so I'm just going to sit on that again for another day. This is the other reason why I haven't been able to start this vlog. But for the cover challenge, which was foliage on the cover, I have two options. I'm going to start with the oldest ebook that fits this prompt on my TBR, which is Into the Green by Jessica Gadziala. If you've watched any of my videos recently, you know that I have DNF'd or you know, just marked as read a whole bunch of Jessica Gadziala books because I just have not been in the mood for her writing yet. But I have Into the Green. I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work for me, I already have my backup lined up. It is The Embrace of Evergreen by Hawthorne, which is the second book in their series, and I've been hanging out to read this book. So both of them feature foliage on the cover. I'm going to start reading now, and then I will come back to you later with either an update or my thoughts on the book. Well, that was a very short update because I am going to DNF the book, because even though it doesn't begin with our main character walking in on her partner cheating, it does open up with her talking about her walking in and finding her partner cheating on her. And I've talked about this in another video recently, I'm so over this as an opening for a romance book. Is there no other way that we can set up the fact that a character is doing something different with their life? Can they not have a new job, or they've just moved to a new place or something? And I know there were plenty of those books. Why does it have to be cheating? Because what it feels like is that authors are using it as a way of showing a reason why the main character, female or male, is behaving in a particular way. People can be quirky and stressed out and frustrated without having walked in on someone cheating on them. Why could they not have been perfectly happily single before they met their love of their life in the book? I don't know. Anyway, am I just becoming cynical? It's entirely likely. Like, I don't have an issue with every book that involves cheating. I know it is a reality. I know it is something people deal with and have to confront and, you know, find a way to move forward from, but I just don't know why we need to be dealing with it in the first 3 pages of a book. That's just my rant. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So I'm just going to move straight into The Embrace of the Evergreen and we'll go from there. I am a terrible vlogger. We know this. Like, this is not new to anyone who's been here for any length of time. I am currently 65% of the way through The Embrace of Evergreen by Hawthorne, and I'm really enjoying it. It is the story of Ethan and Blue. Ethan is the son of one of the supporting characters from the first book, Beneath the Indigo Sky. He is the estranged son of one of the supporting cast members, and he has spent the last 14 years moving from city to city. He works in finance. He's basically a very fancy consultant for businesses. He has just, at the start of the book, he's just finished a job and he plans to head to Seattle, where, unbeknownst to him, I believe at this stage, is where his dad has actually moved. And he's there for a job. with an art gallery. A couple of days before he's there to meet the gallery owners, he actually goes into the gallery and he purchases something. There's some, I don't know if it's a vase or if it's just blown glass art. Anyway, then he comes back and he meets the owners, and he really falls in love with sort of their story and the company and the business they're trying to build, and it's his job to try and help expand that and make it, you know, a more profitable venture moving forward. And the thing to note about Ethan is that part of the reason why he left his small Alaskan hometown 14 years ago was because, one, his mother died, and then a little bit after that, his best friend and boyfriend, Jordan, basically told him that eventually that he wasn't willing to come out in their small town for him, and that eventually he would probably get married to a woman and move on with his life. With all of that, Ethan has just kind of up and left, and so he's constantly been grieving this life, and we find out through the course of the book he presents and eventually begins to identify as demisexual because he just finds that he's never been able to connect to anyone else or have a meaningful relationship or sexual relationship with anyone that he's been with, but he's not really been in one place to develop relationships for any length of time. And he was best friends with Jordan before he ever fell in love with him. And he sort of comes about this revelation through talking to Blue. Now, Blue is living in Seattle. He is an artist. He's a blown glass artist. He happens to be, although Ethan doesn't know it yet at 65% of the way through the story, because this is a very slow burn book, that the artwork that he bought from the gallery is actually Blue's. So they've kind of, at the start of the book, they kind of see each other crossing paths in one of the local coffee shops where Blue's best friend Gabriel works. And then Ethan eventually meets Blue when he goes to tour the workshop where the glass artists make their artwork, because that's one of the artist studios that the gallery is trying to acquire in order to expand sort of this artist collective. And so from there they kind of strike up a friendship, and Blue and Gabriel sort of invite Ethan into their friendship group and help him to find connection within a new community. And Blue and Ethan get to know each other really quite well, and they go on this weekend trip to a very small wooden boat festival in a small town where they end up sharing a room and sharing a bed platonically over the weekend while watching Gabriel perform at this festival. And it's where a lot of these revelations and conversations happen between the two of them. And now at this point they've just come back to Seattle, so I'm really enjoying it. It's a very quiet book. There's some beautiful quotes in there. There's always this kind of hint of magic or magical realism that underpins it, which is it's not explained in the story. It's kind of left up to interpretation as to how or why these things come about. I quite like that. Like the most recent example of it is that as they're leaving the festival, they come across a tarot reader. And the connection here is that Blue's actually brought something from her and does something fun with this tapestry that he's purchased. He's wearing it as a cape, and she offers to do a card reading for all of them. Gabriel is very skeptical, but Blue and Ethan, you know, get their readings, and they're beautiful readings. Like, they're just full of hope and promise for the future for them as individuals. Obviously, we knowing that this is going to be their romance, know that it's going to help them move closer together, but just that little hint of magic, and yeah, I appreciate that. Hello everyone, it is 8 o'clock. I finished this book an hour ago, and I just decided to go eat food before I came back to update you on how the book ended, and I did really enjoy it. It's like the equivalent of a 4-star read. So I finished it. I was reading it as an ebook, and essentially the last 35% of the book is Ethan coming face to face with his past. So I think in the first clip I told you that he had left his small Alaskan hometown when he was a teenager. He spent 14 years sort of traveling around the US working, and when he left behind his best friend and boyfriend, Jaden. So he's been working at this gallery, and he's helping Blue set up some pieces for an exhibition, and he happens to go downstairs and there's another artist setting up their exhibit for the same exhibition, and he thinks it's Jordan, because the other thing that I forgot is that Jordan had a twin brother, and the twin brother is the other MMC from the first book, and that's who's there. So that's Jace. And initially Ethan doesn't realize that. He thinks it's Jordan and he passes out, and then when he wakes up he finds out that Jordan had died 2 years earlier in a car accident, which was a huge part of the first book and the grief and the loss that Jace was feeling, and that's what he was navigating, which then Ethan is now hit with because Jordan was his first love. And so he basically just breaks down and is grieving and can't let anyone in, despite the fact that he's just found out a way to reconnect with his father and the family that is important to his dad through Namid and through Jace. But he just kind of shuts everyone out, including Blue, who is just distraught by the fact that nothing he can do or say can get through to Ethan at the moment. So there's that grief process. There's no third act breakup. There's just this disconnect because of grief and grieving. It's only like 2 or 3 chapters where we're in that and we see the impact for both characters before Blue has a conversation with Jace and is able to sort of realize that he's lucky to have someone who is so ready to be there for him and to grieve with him and to stay by his side, etc., which is exactly what Blue's doing. And so that's kind of the story. And then they, you know, they reconnect and they start to build their life together and they start to build their connection with Ethan's father. It was just lovely. Like, there are some beautiful quotes in there that I'm going to add in a moment to my commonplace book, which I haven't talked about a lot in here. I will do a proper video on it, but is where I'm going to be collecting my favorite bookish thoughts. So I might put in a little clip as I'm doing that. Maybe I'll see if I get a chance to do that. In all of these videos, I try and give some recommendations that would fit the prompt if you are still looking for them. I have a lovely little stack here. We'll start with the romances and then go into some other books because they're not all romances. So books with foliage on the cover. Once Smitten, Twice Shy by Chloe Liese is the third and final book, I think. I always forget the order of these 3. Yes, third and final book in the Wilmot Sisters series. It's so many books, so many series. So this is a gorgeous contemporary romance. It is a retelling of Twelfth Night and it is really fun. Our female protagonist is kind of skeptical about romance and is living with a chronic illness. Our male protagonist is autistic and needs practice in the romance area, and they sort of come together in order to sort of learn the ropes together, or again together in our female protagonist's case, and they fall in love. Like, it's very sweet, very consistent writing style, highly enjoyable. Then there is North is the Night by Emily Rath. Lots of foliage on the cover. This is a fantasy story based on Finnish mythology. We have romantic love between 2 female protagonists. One of them is kidnapped and taken to hell, and she also has a romantic relationship with the ruler of hell there, and the other is on a quest to save her love. Like, it's epic. And I'm waiting for the next book to come out. It is probably one of the most unique fantasy stories I've read in a while. I don't often reach for fantasy, let alone fantasy romance. It's just not my jam. But I mean, I adore Emily Rath. I like her writing, and it's fast paced enough that I know that even if fantasy is not my thing, I'm going to get through the book. So I really enjoyed this one. It was really, really fun, and I can't wait for the second book because I think it was doing some really interesting things. Also fantasy, but with, you know, some romance elements. Like, this is actually kind of my perfect kind of fantasy romance. It is The Spellshop by Sarah Beth Durst. So much foliage on this cover. Anyway, this is the story of Gadziala, who is a librarian who is escaping the destruction of her great library in the city. Basically, the government has come under heavy fire. She escapes with a bunch of books and a sentient talking spider plant, and ends up on this little island where she used to live with her parents, and there she finds herself welcomed into a community. She reconnects with a boy that she knew very briefly when she lived there, and she's slowly bringing magic back to the island, even though magic is kind of forbidden and she's not supposed to be able to use it, but she does, and it's to the benefit of everyone. It's really gorgeous, really fun. I love this book. The audiobook for that one is also excellent. Other books with foliage. Toward Eternity by Anton, which is a science fiction story. This one is deeply, deeply fascinating because it looks at regeneration in order to prolong your life, but initially begins as a way to cure disease, and then turns into cloning and the ethics and the morals of that, but also the implications of what happens when that begins to run rampant. It is so interestingly told. It is a very uniquely told story. I really enjoyed it. Also, one of my favorite covers this year. Like, it's gorgeous. Can't explain this book without spoiling it, but you read it and you go, the future could potentially get very creepy. And then finally, we are going to come back to a book that I also read for one of these vlogs, When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. This book is, the foliage on this is delightful. Again, one of my favorite covers. This is female rage turned burn down the patriarchy, when women suddenly spontaneously turn into dragons and the world is left reeling from the implications of that. And we are following Alex, whose aunt turns into a dragon, and her cousin is brought into their family. She becomes her sister, and they're not allowed to talk about her aunt because you just don't talk about the dragoning. And it is what life is like growing up in a world where you just don't talk about the things that happen to women. It is excellent. All right, and so I shall be back when I decide what it is that I'm going to read for the first prompt. Hi everyone, so I'm back to talk about the next book for the Buzzwordathon reading vlog. This was the title prompt to read a book that had some kind of event in the title, and I went with My Not So Super Blind Date by Allison Temple, this being the word date in there is the event. I've had to be very loose with this term when I come to my recommendations, but I make no apologies for that because trying to find books with any kind of event in the title that I own, that I've read, was interesting. My Not So Super Blind Date is a book in a multi-author, shared universe, superhero kind of series. We are in Morgan's perspective for the entire book. This is a queer MM story, and Morgan is our point of view character. He's sitting in a cafe that belongs to the friend of his late mother, and his mother was a very famous superhero who died 2 years earlier, and he's waiting for a blind date to turn up. And this date does not go well. Like, from the moment the guy walks in, Morgan just knows that this date is not going to go well. And then he finds out that Jasper, who is there to meet him, is a henchman working for one of the villains of this world. And Morgan's like, this is not good. Walks out, leaves, gets hit by a bus. This is the first chapter. Then wakes up sitting in the same seat in the same cafe in the same moment, just as Jasper walks in for their blind date. And then he discovers that he is in a time loop with Jasper and has been in this time loop for a significant period of time. Jasper tells him it's been 60 days. It's been more than that. By the time you get to the end of the book, it's been a significantly longer period of time, and you figure out why when we get there. And so it's Morgan and Jasper having to figure out what is going on, why they're stuck in a time loop, how they can get out of it, and why the world only resets when Morgan dies. Like, literally, for the first couple of chapters, Morgan dies some horrible, very painful deaths in order for the world to reset. And alongside this, Morgan, who has kind of been a failed superhero, he's not really a superhero, has never really developed his abilities or powers in the way that his mother thought that he would. He discovers along the way that he does have abilities, and they do come in handy, but he also discovers who are his friends and allies and who is not, and maybe he needs to stop judging Jasper all of the time. So it was fun. It was an interesting ride, and I won't say it's my favorite thing I ever read, but it's been a while since I read a superhero romance, so I enjoyed being back in that sort of subgenre. As for recommendations, as I said, we're playing hard and fast with some of these. I have some young adult books in various genres, and I have some adult titles in various genres. So let's start with young adult. Gap Year in Ghost Town by Michael Pryor is a young adult paranormal story, and it is really good. It's fantastic. It's set in my home city. I love this book so much. I actually haven't done a reread in a while. Maybe I should leave it out for October to reread it, because I really enjoyed this series when I first read it when it came out. This follows Anton, who comes from a family of ghost hunters, who ends up having to team up with another ghost hunter to track down a series of very dangerous ghosts that have been appearing in Melbourne. The event in here is a gap year. A gap year is the year that you take off between high school and university here in Australia. I don't know if they have that same term overseas, possibly, but that's the event. It's the gap year. Then this one I'm really stretching, but it's an event for me, so I will count it. Is None Shall Sleep. Sleep, sleep is an event. Like, sleep is an important event in my life on a daily basis. I need it to happen. This is by Ellie Marney. It is a young adult thriller set in the 1980s. We are following two young adults who are working for the FBI, working alongside a serial killer to track down another serial killer. What more can I say? It's a really great series. I have to read the third book. I have to read the third book before March or April next year because I'm going to see Ellie Marney again, and I would like to get my hands on the third book because I have books 1 and 2, but I don't have the third one yet. I do own it on my Kindle though. Adult titles. The Night Circus. The circus being the event. This one I have not read in a long time, and I would like to get back to it at some point, maybe next year. Next year is my 10 years on BookTube, so maybe that would be fun to reread that next year. Probably with an audiobook. How small is the writing? Probably as an ebook. That writing is very small. But I read this when it first came out, when it was very popular all over BookTube, and I absolutely loved it. I loved the vibe and the setting, and I still think this is one of my favorite fantasy book covers. I know it's very simple, but the black and white and the red just is the aesthetic that I love in a book cover, especially one where this color palette is so important to the story. I won't try and explain it because it's been that long since I read it. Just know that, like, this is a nostalgia love for me in fantasy. Part of me really wants to reread it, part of me doesn't, because I just have those memories of loving the book, and we know me in fantasy now and I don't want to ruin that. But I probably will reread it because annotating that would be fun. Two romances. The first one being a novella, A Holly Jolly Christmas, Christmas being the event. This is a Christmas novella set in Australia. We have Holly, who is hosting family Christmas for the first time, and everything that could go wrong does go wrong, and she needs to enlist the help of her best friend Sean to make sure that things run smoothly. It's super, like, it's teeny tiny. It's a romance. Then one of my all-time favorite romance books. I can't remember if I've recommended this in one of these videos before, but you're getting it again if I have. It is role-playing being the event, because that is something that you can do with other people that you might schedule an event for. And this is a contemporary romance with characters in their 40s and 50s. They meet while playing an online role-playing game. They have misconceptions about each other from the start. She thinks he is a 20-year-old in college, and he thinks she's an octogenarian because that's the way they present themselves in the, well, she presents herself as an octogenarian in the online space. She thinks he's a 20-year-old because she's recommended the online role-playing game based on some of the other people who are playing the game. And when I tell you this is one of my favorite romances, it has bisexual and demisexual rep in it. It has a fierce female protagonist who will do anything for the people that she loves, but is also a homebody and does not want to leave her house and just wants to sit there and eat noodles at home and not engage with anyone. I still want to be Maggie when I grow up, but she's fierce. Like, she's one of my favorite characters, actually both of them are my favorite characters, but she is one of my favorite female leads in a book. I read this back in 2023. It's still one of my favorite books. 2023 was the peak year of standout books that have not left the top of my book list since 2023. Like, the top 3 books from 2023 are still my top 3 books in 2025. What can I say? That was a great year for books. And so that wraps up this buzzwordathon vlog, as chaotic as it was. I'm hoping that next month I will get the next vlog out fairly soon. In fact, hopefully maybe in the first or second week of October, as opposed to the end of September this month. But that's just the way the things have fallen this month, so we will cope. It is done, and I am looking forward to the next prompts. So stay tuned for that. In the comments, I'd love to know, have you read any of these books? Are you planning on picking any of them up? Otherwise, if you are participating in the buzzwordathon reading vlog, what did you read for these prompts? Because honestly, these two, well, the foliage one was fine, but the event one was a struggle. That was a struggle. So feel free to let me know down below. If you would just like to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave any kind of emoji that represents foliage or plant life down below. I hope that wherever you're on the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.